On this channel, we'd like to dive into the backstory of Call of Duty, and generally speaking, we like to dive into individual characters. Last week, we dove into Alex Mason. In the past, we dove into Bell, the new character in Black Ops Cold War. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Today, we are going to be looking at a character and answering the question, who really are they? And this is an interesting character because it's actually what the entire game of Black Ops Cold War is about. And that, of course, is Perseus. Now, as it turns out, Perseus in Cold War actually goes way deeper than you may think. Perseus goes much further than just the KGB and the missions that are in the campaign. And I'm going to go as far as to say, in this video, I'm going to blow your mind with who Perseus is actually related to and working with. But there's also multiple steps to understanding who Perseus actually is. And the first part of it is actually looking at who Perseus is in real life. So the real life story of Perseus revolves around something called the Manhattan Project, something that you might be familiar with, but essentially this was something that took place during World War II, where the US alongside the UK and Canada decided to make essentially a nuclear project. The idea of this was to create a laboratory in New Mexico by the name of Los Alamos Laboratories, where they would test, design, and build nuclear bombs. This was led by a man named Robert Oppenheimer, and they got nuclear physicists from around the world to help them. This is where Perseus comes in. Perseus was not a soldier. He wasn't a really buff, secretive man. He was a physicist, and essentially in real life there are two ideas as to who Perseus could be. Keep in mind, to this day they still don't know who he is. The first person was named Philip Morrison. He was born in New Jersey, and he was a professor at MIT who worked under Robert Oppenheimer during the Manhattan Project. Now, it was said that he was a Soviet spy named Perseus, working for the Soviet Union and giving them information about the project, but nothing could ever be proved on this person named Philip Morrison. The second person we have is by the name of Theodore Holtzberg, or Theodore Hall for short. Now, I want you to remember the name Theodore and specifically the initials TH, as it's going to come into play later. However, what we know about Theodore Hall is he was literally a genius. He graduated high school at the age of 13 and got into Harvard by the age of 16. 2 years later, he graduated with a degree in physics, and a year later, he was working at the Manhattan Project towards the end of World War II. Now, in 1999, shortly after he died, it was confirmed that he leaked details and descriptions of the Fat Man plutonium bomb and several processes for purifying plutonium to the Soviets. That is right, it was confirmed that he was a Soviet spy. So he is actually the lead suspect for who Perseus is to this day. So we're not going to go through the whole story of hunting Perseus. We have many videos going over the whole Black Ops Cold War story. But by the end, Bell remembers his time in a meeting with Perseus. It is this older gentleman that you are seeing here who is obviously a part of the Russian army. And in fact, if we look at a later cutscene and look a little bit more specifically at what he is wearing, he appears to be an actual Russian general. Based off of the epaulets with the kind of leaves and the star in the middle with the red epaulet, that actually means that he's some sort of army general. Now, we don't know whether he was in the past or currently is at the point of taking this picture. However, this is actually not that important because as we find out in the evil ending, this is not Perseus. In fact, no one man is actually Perseus.
And to think, after all this time, they still believed I'm Perseus. As if Perseus could ever be an individual working alone. So American.
So in this ending, it's not canon, but what we find out is that Perseus is not just an individual soldier and an individual person doing all of these acts. It is a corporation or a group of people all working together for the sole purpose of taking down America, or taking down the West, if you will. So really the question we should be asking isn't who is Perseus, but rather who is in Perseus. Now, a bunch of the Perseus agents are incredibly obvious. Everyone sitting at the table in this cutscene here is obviously a member of Perseus. On the left, you have Anton Volkov, one of the people that you take down in the campaign. On top of this, you have Kasim Javadi, who is the very first person that you take down at the beginning of the campaign, who gives you the name of Arash Kadivar. Arash Kadivar is the one that you take down at the airstrip, and he is in charge of weapon smuggling, getting weapons in and out of areas to Perseus agents and Perseus soldiers. After this, you have Vladimir Rudnik. He is one of the people who is inside the KGB and getting information directly from the KGB and giving it to the various Perseus agents. And then finally, the last person you have here is by the name of Robert Aldrich. And this is a character who is in charge of recruiting people into Perseus. He is the one who knows all of the members inside, and that is why when you take him down in the campaign, it stops him from expanding the Perseus soldiers and the Perseus army. Now, there is one other person that we are introduced to in the campaign. When you go to Cuba to track down one of the nukes for Operation Greenlight, you were introduced to a scientist by the name of Theodore Hastings. Remember how we were talking about Theodore Hall earlier? Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that the scientist that we're introduced to in this game goes by the initials TH and is a member of Perseus. Now, in the campaign, Perseus, or the main guy in Perseus, who is that general that we talked about before, ends up turning on him, shooting him, and just using him for his knowledge. But there is definitely a crossover there. Here's where things get more confusing, though. In the mission in the KGB headquarters, you are introduced to two other characters, Lev Kravchenko and Imran Zakhaev. Now, originally when I first played this mission, this told me that Imran Zakhaev was working with Perseus, and that is why he was inside the KGB headquarters. Until the new intel came out in Warzone, and we found out that a reason why Imran Zakhaev was doing what he was doing is because he had his own beliefs separate from Perseus. He didn't want them getting their hands on Imran Zakhaev's nukes, and that is why he locked down the bunkers. So, Imran Zakhaev was not a member of Perseus. However, based off of the intel in Warzone, we know that he met with members of Perseus, and his contact inside of the KGB was Lev Kravchenko. And inside the campaign, you can actually see them having a little bit of a conversation, talking about who they can trust, who they can't trust. What this tells me is that Kravchenko is actually the one working inside Perseus. And as we know, Kravchenko's allies are Nikita Dragovich, who died at the end of Black Ops 1, and Frederick Steiner, the person in charge of Nova 6 gas. But it goes much deeper than this. So we can assume that all of these characters, the main bad guys from Black Ops 1, are all a part of Perseus. But there is one more character added in Season 1, and that is Stitch, and his backstory goes like this. He was working with Steiner doing the Nova 6 gas on Rebirth Island when he was captured when the CIA attacked Rebirth Island in Black Ops 1. After he was captured, he was interrogated by Russell Adler and returned to the Soviet government. At this time, the Soviets thought that he turned on them, so imprisoned them in the exact same prison that we saw in Modern Warfare 2, the same prison that Captain Price was held in. At some point along the way, the prison was attacked and Stitch was saved by Perseus. Ever since then, Stitch has been working alongside Perseus, creating Nova 6 gas and giving it to them. However, there's a bit of a twist. And for this twist, Raul Menendez is actually involved. If you guys didn't know, I've made a couple of videos talking about this, but the map cartel is based off of the takeover of the Menendez drug cartel by Raul Menendez taking over for his father, Jose Luis Menendez. And as you can see in this building here, we have a picture of Raul Menendez, but more importantly, laying on the desk beside it is a letter written to Jose Luis Menendez before his death from Stitch. And it reads, "To Jose Luis Menendez, I understand that the US is holding an ally of yours. We can secure his release if you agree to us utilizing your global shipping and distribution trade routes. I have precarious cargo that cannot be disrupted. As goodwill, I know that your friend is scheduled for a prison transport next year passing through Miami. Regards, Stitch." So, First of all, this was in the game before Season 1, so we could have predicted that Stitch was a character coming to the game. On top of this, it also describes what's going on the map Miami. This is actually a prison transport of a mysterious person. By the way, in case you're wondering who this mysterious person is, I believe it is Manuel Noriega, who is kind of Raul Menendez's right-hand man in Black Ops 2, and there's a whole other backstory behind him as well, which is a huge part of Black Ops 2. Now, of course, the distribution and shipping of this precarious cargo is of course talking about Nova 6 gas that they are eventually shipping to the Pines Mall in New Jersey, which is what we see in the Season 1 cutscene. Now, what this tells us is that the Menendez drug cartel is working with Perseus as kind of like a shipping and distribution company. Of course, using their drug cartel as the front for that, which is pretty insane that now Menendez is getting tied up with Perseus. Believe it or not, this is huge for the Black Ops story because this could actually be the reason how Woods gets captured by Raul Menendez. He is hunting down Perseus, who is working with Menendez. Menendez captures Woods, and that's how that all takes place. So we're actually starting to see how Raul Menendez kind of fits into this overarching Black Ops story, which is pretty damn cool. Now, this got me thinking. As we know, Modern Warfare 2019 is in this same universe, which means everything takes place on a timeline. Now, in Black Ops 2, there is two timelines going on. There's the stuff going on in 1986, like Frank Woods being captured, for example, but there's also the other half where you play as David Mason, and this takes place in the year 2025. What got me thinking is that the next Modern Warfare 2 game, if it comes out next year, we can assume that it's taking place in the year 2021. And with this is only 4 years before Black Ops 2, which made me think it is actually possible that David Mason could become a member of Task Force 141 in the next Modern Warfare game. Now, as I'm making this video, I just realized that I've never made a full story video for David Mason. So if that's something that you'd want to see, just show me by hitting that like button, letting me know down in the comments. Because it is possible that David Mason somehow actually joins the Modern Warfare crew. Now, this is not guaranteed. I'm just throwing the idea out there because this is how all of the lines and stuff are crossing over within that game. And also, Raul Menendez could very well be a bad guy in that game as well. There's some very interesting things that are happening here. But to answer the question, who is Perseus? It's a bunch of different bad guys all working together under Russia, and Russian government doesn't seem to actually know about it, and Raul Menendez is getting brought into the fray as well. Now, you can actually see on Stitch that he is wearing a necklace with some sort of emblem on it, and this emblem is actually a sign for the Underground Collective. We know this because of the battle pass that is currently in Black Ops Cold War. It's labeled as that in an emblem. But if you actually look online, it appears as though this is becoming the banner for Perseus. This is Perseus's logo. So hopefully this was able to answer some of your questions. If you enjoy this video, want to see more like it, it's always appreciated if you hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, like what you see, want to stay up to date on all my videos, all the story videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are